Is there any wonder that the American people have given up on Donald Trump and his stewardship of the economy? Remember the tariffs that he announced to much fanfare, shedding $3 to $7 trillion from market value because he made a statement in the Rose Garden? And then he thought better of it a week later when other people talked to him, like Wall Street and Warren Buffett and JP Morgan Chase's Jamie Dimon and whoever else could get him on the phone. This is how he runs policy in this country. And then he put the pause button on the tariffs and then lurched the economy once again. Well, the world central bankers have been watching, and Jay Powell, who is the chairman of our central bank, the Federal Reserve. And now Donald Trump is pissed off again. His entire administration is one about vindictiveness and retribution and retaliation. Now he's mad at Stephanie Ruhle on MSNBC because she did a major takedown of his tariffs. And we have a president that doesn't know what to do with himself, and he just stares and is glued to the cable news screen. When he's not using Fox News as his training academy for U.S. attorneys or his Department of Defense or his intelligence community, he's watching the opposition MSNBC and getting all exercised because she's after him on tariffs and explaining how it's been a disaster and how there have been no real announcements and there's no real deals. And even the deals that Donald Trump announces seem to be bad for the economy, and the markets are reacting. And then Donald Trump got peeved at Jay Powell because Jay Powell's not bailing out Donald Trump. See, Donald Trump wants a bailout for his failed economic policy. And the bailout that he's demanding and trying to put Jay Powell, our Fed Reserve chairman, into a political squeeze and try to blame him for the economy, which we know is not true, is by telling Jay Powell, why aren't you reducing rates? Reduce rates, more free money for America. That'll help stop recession. That'll help stop unemployment. No, it won't. Thank God we have an adult in the form of Jay Powell who's got his hands firmly on the controls of our economy and monetary policy. Donald Trump wrecked the economy by cutting the supply line and the fuel line between the government and the economy. He took the U.S. out of the U.S. economy, firing tens of thousands of people, putting them on unemployment lines for the federal government, cutting billions of dollars of funding to states and not-for-profits that would have went to help you and me, cutting humanitarian aid around the world. Each one of those dollars has an American job behind it. He then decided to do all of that at the same time he engaged in a major trade war with every one of our trading partners, including Mexico, Canada, and China. And now where are we? Let's talk about it on Legal AF, the only way I know how, without blowing smoke or sunshine. Let's get into it. Donald Trump said, I'm going to be cutting so many trade deals. I'm the deal maker, the art of the deal. Everybody celebrated the art of the deal. Mike Johnson, Speaker of the House, art of the deal. How's that art of the deal going so far? Not well. And that was the premise of Stephanie Ruhle's reporting and commentary on MSNBC. I'll show you a clip from it in a second. But the markets are basically either in meh, ho-hum, or just continuing its downward trend and spiral in response to whatever Donald Trump's trying to do now, depending upon who bent his ear last. On the first deal that he's really announced, other than the one with Vietnam was a trade deal with the UK. It wasn't even finished when he announced it. It effectively triples the rate of the tariff from 3% to almost 10%. It lets some cars out of the equation, but it was a whole bunch of nothing that the markets were like bored by even before the announcement was over. And then he turned to China and he said, I got an idea. Let me lower the rates after a month with no capitulation or concession by China. Let me just lower the rates by 65%. There's still 80% tariffs on Chinese goods. Even if you lop off 65%, they were 145% as of a week ago. So he floats this trial balloon, sort of like the Hindenburg, about, I got an idea. Maybe we'll cut 85% off of China. Here's my question for Trump and anybody in his economic circle. What was your economic rationale for raising them to 145%? And what have you obtained or extracted from China since then? And what is the economic rationale for cutting and proposing a cut of 85%? And don't tell me it's because you were glued to cable television and somebody gave you the bright idea. Let's watch Stephanie Ruhle take down Donald Trump in a clip, and then I'll give you the reporting of Donald Trump getting all hot and bothered about Stephanie Ruhle. Let's run the clip first.
What's most important is the language around China. A week ago, China was like, we're not showing up unless you lower the tariffs, and we didn't. 48 hours ago, Donald Trump said, we're not going to lower the tariffs. Yesterday, he said, yeah, maybe. And today, things are softening even more. So I absolutely agree with you that Donald Trump is looking for some sort of exit here. And 4 weeks from now, 6 weeks from now, we may be seeing a much better picture because he has been told that look at the cargo ships coming in to Seattle, the port of Los Angeles. Pick the port. Those ships, we're getting fewer and fewer ships with less and less cargo. And unless he turns this around, 3 weeks from now, you walk into a store and we're going to have a COVID-like supply chain crisis. And Trump is looking for an exit. And while small businesses right now are saying, I don't see it yet, I'm still panicked, Wall Street sees it. One more point yesterday. What did he say? Stock market looks cheap. Buy the market. And I'm not saying Donald Trump is a stock market pontificator, but the last time he said that was April 9th, the day he said, I'm going to press pause. I believe he's giving lots and lots of signals to say this trade war, I'm looking for a way out.
Okay. So Donald Trump goes on social media. We'll post it in a minute. Oh, MSNBC likes to call it Democratic. DMSNBC, whatever he calls it, as if that's the network that's in the back pocket of a party instead of Fox. How many people in Trump leadership and inner circle are going to come off the Fox and Friends, the Five, the Fox, whatever, anchor desk bench? How many? That's all we've seen. The best and the brightest, apparently, ladies and gentlemen, to run our government have been hiding in plain sight all this time on Fox. So get off the critique of MSNBC. Stephanie Ruhle did a good job, as you just saw, in taking him down. He said, and his favorite, especially when it's a woman, here's the misogyny rearing its ugly head once again, is when he says she's not too bright, not too smart. Kamala Harris, not too smart. Letitia James, New York Attorney General, not too bright. The prosecutor down in Georgia, Fani Willis, not too bright. Not too smart. Only one smart is me. Is that what we're watching? We're watching your best and brightest in action? Not so far. Not so far. So now let's turn to Jay Powell for a minute. Donald Trump threatens to replace the head of the Federal Reserve. God help us if he ever was able to do that. Even his own economic advisors, from his Treasury Secretary to his Commerce Secretary to his whoever's the head of his Council of Economic Advisors, have all told him, if you do that, Wall Street will completely turn their back on the Trump administration and you will be dead in the water, more dead in the water than you are right now. So he can threaten it, because what he's really trying to do is create an excuse, because he wants Jay Powell to bail him out by cutting the interest rates. Now, the rest of the central banks around the world who don't have a robust economy, even our economy with a virus named Trump is still better than most of the other economies of our allies. The Bank of England cut their rates by 0.5 point. The European Community central banks cut their rates by 1.7%. Donald Trump is salivating. He wants a rate cut of 1 point or lower. And Jay Powell announced, we're gonna wait. We're gonna wait and see. We're gonna wait. He said the word wait literally 22 times. Somebody counted it at his press conference. We're gonna wait. We're gonna wait it out. His focus during the press conference, or during his statements, was that there are high unemployment and rising prices and high inflation that are the result of the Trump administration policies, but we're going to wait. Because if we turn on the spigot of money too early, then we're going to have hyperinflation. We'll have what's called stagflation, a stagnant economy where the GDP, the gross domestic product, is sort of flatlining. At the same time, prices are rising. And that stagflation is what Jay Powell is worried about. Donald Trump doesn't care. He's just looking for a political out, a political excuse. So, of course, he goes after Jay Powell so that he can blame somehow the head of the Federal Reserve and monetary policy about how the economics are doing. so far polling, I mean, that esoteric concept that the Federal Reserve chairman is making your egg prices higher is lost on the vast majority of Americans, because it's untrue, and that is a concept that nobody can get their mind around. Especially when you watch Donald Trump effectively wreck the economy, wreck the bull economy, the bull stock market single-handedly, tariff us to death. I mean, right now you've got, as Stephanie mentioned, you've got these empty container ships coming in because the world economy has already adjusted to Donald Trump's tariffs, and they've sent their goods other places, or they've stopped bringing their goods because manufacturers and suppliers and distributors are not going to eat the price increase. I know there was much fanfare. Walmart and Target and Home Depot, all buddies of Donald Trump, they're all going to eat the tariff. No, they're not eating the tariff. What kind of business model is that? They're going to eat 145% tariff on China for their bottom line? No, they're not going to do that at all. So Donald Trump can, kick and scream and throw food in his high chair all he wants. But the polling numbers show that the blame is rightly placed. We pin the tail right on the elephant and on Donald Trump when it comes to the economy. I don't take any special delight in the failure of the Trump economy, but I'm going to report on it. But I'm going to call it out, and I'm going to provide it as a justification and a motivation for people to use at the midterms, to run these bastards out on a rail, to pull out Donald Trump's enablers in the House and the Senate, give the House and the Senate back to the Democrats, and let us do our job, and let us be back in the business of a well-balanced government with checks and balances and separation of power and rule of law respected. Let's get back to that together here on Legal AF. So until my next report, come on over to the Legal AF Substack. Come on over to Legal AF, the podcast. And of course, you're here already. Take a moment and hit the free subscribe button on Legal AF, the YouTube channel. So until my next reporting, I'm Michael Popok. Can't get your fill of Legal AF? Me neither. That's why we formed the Legal AF Substack. Every time we mention something in a hot take, whether it's a court filing or a oral argument, come over to the Substack. You'll find the court filing and the oral argument there, including a daily roundup that I do called, wait for it, Morning AF. What else? All the other contributors from Legal AF are there as well. We got some new reporting. We got interviews. We got ad-free versions of the podcast and hot takes. Where? Legal AF on Substack. Come over now to free subscribe.